I was 5 weeks into a rehab facility, hip, pneumonia, the full senior special, when my phone rang from a number I didn't know. A woman's voice, young, careful, the voice of someone walking on ice. Mr. Kowalski? Martin Kowalski? A long pause, and then she made a sound, half laugh, half sob, and said, "You answered. Oh, thank God, you answered." I said, "Ma'am, who is this?" And she said the two sentences that split my life into before and after. "Sir, I bought your wife's piano yesterday. The listing said, your son told the movers that both his parents had passed. Mr. Kowalski, he told them you were dead. I'm Martin. I'm 76. And before that phone call ended, this stranger told me one more thing, that taped inside the piano bench, underneath 40 years of sheet music, she'd found an envelope in my late wife's handwriting, an envelope addressed to me, an envelope I never knew existed, because for 2 years I hadn't been able to bring myself to lift that piano's lid. It's sitting in my living room, sir," she said, "and I think you'd better come get it. And Mr. Kowalski, I think you'd better hurry home in general. Bring a jacket, friends. I told you this one was cold. To understand what my son did, you have to understand what that piano was, so come stand in my living room for a minute. A 1958 Baldwin, mahogany, with a candle scorch on the lid from the blackout of '77, and a brass plate on the fallboard that says D.K., Dorothy Kowalski. Dot, my wife. We bought it the 3rd year of our marriage for more money than our car was worth, and my father told me I was a fool, and it was the best foolishness of my life, because Dot didn't just play that piano. Dot ran a civilization off it. 38 years of lessons. Tuesday through Saturday half-hour slots. The metronome ticking on top like the house's own heartbeat. Every kid in our end of town within 3 decades either learned piano from Dot Kowalski or sat on our porch steps waiting for a sibling who did. She taught the gifted ones, and she taught the hopeless ones, and she had a rule. You regulars collect the rules of the wives on this channel, so here's Dot's. Nobody leaves a lesson worse than they came in. Music or no music. Kids came to that bench with divorces at home, with stutters, with report cards they were scared to show, and Dot taught them scales and slid them cookies, and somehow, somewhere between C major and the cookies, fixed things. I'd come home from the plant, and there'd be some teenager at my piano, playing angry, and Dot in the kitchen doorway, with her arms folded, letting him. "He doesn't need Chopin today," she'd murmur. "He needs the loud keys." We had one son, Craig. And here's the part of this story that hurts before the villain even does anything. So let's have it honestly. Craig grew up sharing his mother with half the town's children, and Craig kept the receipts. He'd have told you, he did tell me, eventually, in the worst hour of this whole affair, that the piano got the best of her, that the students got the patient Dot, the cookie Dot, and he got the tired one who'd already spent her gentleness by 6 p.m. Is there a grain of truth in it? Probably. There usually is. Grievances don't grow in empty pots. But I watched that woman sit up nights with that boy's fevers and drive 400 round-trip miles to every college thing he ever half invited us to. And somewhere in Craig, the grain of truth grew into a whole silo, and he moved to the suburbs and became a man who says, being realistic, the way other men say amen. Dot died 2 years ago this spring, sudden. Her heart at the kitchen table, a Thursday, between the 10 a.m. lesson and lunch. And I did fine, friends. I did fine. Except for one thing. I closed the piano lid on the day of the funeral, and I never opened it again. Couldn't. 26 months, that lid stayed down, and I dusted it like a coffin, and the metronome on top stayed frozen at 4/4 time, And every day I told myself, tomorrow, maybe, I'll play the thing she loved. Tomorrow. Hold on to that closed lid. Everything in this story lives under it. This February, my body staged its little rebellion. A patch of ice, a hip, and pneumonia moving in behind the surgery like a looter behind a riot. Hospital, then a rehab facility, 7 weeks total, which at 76 is not a vacation, it's a referendum. Craig came. I'll say that. He came. He brought decent slippers, and he took my house keys to water the plants and keep an eye on things, and I handed them over with gratitude, because, say it with me, regulars, nobody hands you a cage, one bar at a time, and every bar is called a favor. The bars, in order. My mail started coming to the facility in rubber-banded bundles, pre-opened. Just sorting it, Dad, half of it's junk. Bar 1. Then the phrase, "When you're ready to talk about next steps," entered every visit, wearing scrubs of concern. Then brochures appeared on my little table. Cedarwood Commons, Autumn Ridge, glossy old men playing chess. You know the brochures from an earlier story on this channel. I believe they print them in the same building. Bar 2. Then my neighbor Pete visited and mentioned, puzzled, friendly, that there'd been a truck at my place. "You having work done, Marty?" And when I asked Craig, the answer came smooth as a salesman's second coffee. "Cleaning out clutter, Dad. The gutters, the garage. You'll thank me." Bar 3. And here's the thing about being flat on your back in a facility, friends. Your world shrinks to what people carry into the room. I couldn't drive past my own house, couldn't peek in my own windows. Every fact I had wore Craig's voice on the way in. He was betting on that. It's what the practical ones bet on. Not that you'll say yes, but that you'll be too far away to say no in time. 5 weeks in, the phone rang from a number I didn't know. Her name, and I'm allowed to use it, she's since become family. Her name is Anna Reyes. And 30 years ago, her name was Anna from the Blue House, 7 years old, one of Dot's Saturday kids. Her parents were splitting up loudly that year, and my wife taught her scales and slid her cookies, and today Anna Reyes is a music teacher herself. 2 towns east, full circle, the way Dot's kids tended to. Tuesday night, Anna's scrolling an online marketplace for a student piano for her school, and her thumb stops, because there, listed at $1,100, estate sale, must go this week, both owners deceased, is a mahogany Baldwin with a candle scorch on the lid and a brass plate reading DK. She told me she sat in her kitchen and cried, and then got angry, and then got organized. You can hear Dot in that sequence, can't you? And messaged the seller within the hour. Paid the $1,100 without haggling, friends. A teacher's salary. She was not going to let that piano spend one more night with someone who spelled Dorothy Kowalski estate sale. The seller, my son, using a marketplace name, which is its own little confession, wanted it gone fast. Movers came Thursday, and it was one of the movers, making conversation, who repeated what the seller had told them to explain the rush. Both his folks passed. Poor guy, he's clearing the family home. Both his folks. Anna spent that evening with my wife's piano in her living room. She opened the bench. A teacher opens the bench. That's where the life is. And found 4 decades of Dot lesson ledgers, recital programs from 1986, a photo of a Christmas class in matching reindeer sweaters, and underneath all of it, taped to the bottom board of the bench, an envelope, heavy paper, 1 word on the front, in the handwriting Anna still got her corrections in 30 years ago, Martin. And Anna Reyes, who had bought this piano believing I was dead, did the detective work of a grieving student. In the ledger's back pages, Dot kept contacts. And one entry, in the family section, read Martin, cell, with a number, and Anna stared at a dead man's phone number for 20 minutes, she told me, and then said out loud, alone in her living room, "Well, Mrs. K would call," and dialed it, and a dead man answered. Friends, we talked for an hour. I sat in a rehab bed in those hospital socks with the rubber dots, holding the phone with both hands. She told me about the listing, the movers, both parents deceased. She described the envelope, taped where only Dot could have taped it. And then she said the sentence I quoted you at the start, "Hurry home in general," and explained it. The same seller account, she'd noticed, had 11 other listings: a cedar wardrobe, a Singer sewing machine, boxes of vintage household, $5 each. And in the background of one photo, leaned against my garage wall, a real estate sign, still wrapped in plastic, "Coming soon." My son wasn't watering the plants. My son was erasing me, at market prices, which, I'd learn, he couldn't even get right. And the piano, of everything in that house, friends, mark this, the piano went first. Not the TV, not the tools. Grief doesn't sell its mother's piano first. Grievance does. I hung up with Anna near 10 p.m., and then I did something I hadn't done in 26 months, right there in that rehab bed. I looked at the ceiling and talked to Dot. I said, I know, the bench. You always said the bench. I'm going, sweetheart, but I'm going to need the list. Because you see, in that hour on the phone, Anna had read me the ledger's very last page. And the last page wasn't lesson contacts. It was a page in Dot's hand, dated the winter before she died, as if she'd felt something coming, the way the wives on this channel always seem to. And it was titled, in her teacher's cursive, "People who will help you when I can't." 41 names, friends. 41 of Dot's kids, grown now, with phone numbers, and next to each name, one word about who they'd become: plumber, nurse, judge's clerk, locksmith, realtor, attorney. My wife, 2 years dead, had left me an army. What happened over the next 6 days, I can only describe as a piano recital in reverse. One by one, the students came back, and this time they did the playing. Anna made the first calls that same night. Teresa, Thursday at 4. Teresa, 1990s, now a realtor, pulled the listing prep on my house by morning. My son had signed an agreement to list a property he did not own, on behalf of family, with an agent 2 towns over who had never asked one question. Teresa asked several, loudly, professionally. The sign came off my garage wall by Friday. Priya, Saturday morning Priya, the one who played Fiorelise at Dot's funeral, is an elder law attorney now, and Priya visited me at the facility Wednesday with a legal pad, and that look Dot's serious ones always had. She confirmed what I needed confirmed. Craig had no power of attorney, no guardianship, no authority of any kind. Every listing, every sale, every signature was a man playing heir to a live man's estate. "Mr. K," she said, "your son has been very busy, being someone he isn't. The good news is, paper cuts both ways. Sam the locksmith, Tuesday at 5. Sam, the angry keys boy, the one Dot let play loud, met Pete at my house Saturday morning and rekeyed every door while my discharge paperwork printed. And Marcus the nurse. I know, friends, the channel has had a Marcus before. Dot's kids are legion. Marcus reviewed my rehab chart, squared his shoulders, and informed the facility that Mr. Kowalski would be discharging to home with arranged support, not transitioning to Cedarwood Commons per the family's plan. There was, it turned out, a family plan. I had never been shown it. It had a deposit on it, friends. Refundable, thank God for small mercies, My son is cruel, not stupid, though it was a photo finish. And Sunday at noon, Anna Reyes picked me up at the curb of that facility in a minivan with two boosters in the back, and drove me home, and held my arm up my own front steps, past a dumpster with my name on the rental agreement. He'd put the dumpster in my name. The practical ones always keep the costs on your side of the ledger, and through my own rekeyed front door. Empty, friends, not robbed empty. Worse, staged empty. The living room held a rented beige couch and a bowl of decorative wicker balls. Dot's curtains, gone. The wall of recital photos, gone. Spackled, painted grage, a word I have since learned and will never forgive. 49 years of a marriage, and what remained would have fit in the back of Anna's van. I stood where the piano wasn't. There's a shape a piano leaves in a room, a silence with corners, and I stood in it, and Anna stood next to me and said, quietly, "It's safe. It's at my place. It goes wherever you say." And I said, "Not yet. First I need to sit down with my son, and Anna, I'd like the letter now." Craig came Monday, summoned by a text from me that said only, "I'm home, come by." He walked in with brochures, walked into the grage, staged, emptied house he'd made, carrying brochures. Friends, that's the man, and stopped 4 steps in when he saw the company, me, in my chair. Pete retrieved my chair from the sold pending pickup pile in the garage. Sold pending pickup, my chair. Priya with her legal pad, and on the mantel where the photos used to be, one item. Dot's metronome, which Teresa had bought back Saturday from a $5 box lot and which sat there ticking because I'd wound it for the occasion. Let him talk over his mother's clock. I'll spare you the full hour, but you get the center of it, word for word, because this channel exists so that the melody gets recognized in other houses. He started with management. "Dad, I know how this looks. Went to logistics. You can't maintain this place. I'm one person. I can't keep running 2 houses. Then to the marketplace. Everything I sold was clutter. It was going to a dump eventually." And when Priya, mild as tea, read aloud the definitions of conversion and fraud and asked whether both owners deceased had been the dump's idea, my son finally arrived at the truth, the way a man arrives at a wall, and said the sentences I will be hearing at 3 a.m. for the rest of my life. "It's furniture, Dad. She's gone. She's been gone 2 years, and you keep the lid closed and dust it like a shrine. You know what nobody's asked me even once since Mom died? What I need. I'm the one still here." And there it was, the silo, cracked open at last, 40 years of stored grain pouring out over a rented beige couch. I let the metronome tick, maybe 10 beats. And then I answered him, and I was not cruel, friends, but I was exact, because Dot taught exactness, and somebody at that lesson was finally going to leave better than they came in. You sold the piano first, Craig. Not the TV, not my table saw. That's real money, a practical man checks. The piano, $1,100 for the thing she loved, while I was flat on my back, and you told strangers I was dead to make it move faster. Son, that's not clutter removal. That's a eulogy. You've been writing mine and hers at the same time, and you made me dead because it was easier to inherit me than to visit me. I picked up the metronome and stopped it, and the room got very loud with quiet. You want to know what you need? You need to hear that your mother loved you with everything she had left every single day, and that the leftovers of that woman were more than most men get whole. I know. I lived on them too, every 6 p.m., for 49 years, and I never once called it hunger. Priya slid the papers across, the accounting of every sold item, the repayment terms, the acknowledgement, signed in that room, that he had no claim, no authority, and no keys. He signed everything. The practical ones always sign. Paper is their native language. At the door he stopped, and for 1 second I saw the boy on the porch steps waiting for the students to leave, and he said, "The letter in the bench. Did she leave me one?" And friends, I want to be honest the way I always am. It would have been so easy to hurt him there. Instead, I told him the truth. I don't know yet. I haven't been able to open it. But Craig, she left you the same thing she left everybody. 41 names in the back of a ledger, and yours could have been the 42nd. Any Tuesday you'd showed up. He left. The metronome stayed. The piano came home Wednesday. It took 6 of Dot's kids and a rented ramp, and Pete directed traffic like it was the moon landing, and they set it in its shape in the room. The silence finally filled in with its own furniture. And then everybody, some instinct, went quiet and looked at me. 26 months, that lid. I opened it. The keys looked like Dot had just stepped into the kitchen. The envelope said, "Martin," and inside was 1 page and 1 piece of sheet music, handwritten, and I'm going to give you what I can bear to give you of the page. She'd written it the winter before her heart quit, the same winter as the list, because the wives on this channel always seem to know, and she wrote, "Martin, if you're reading this, either you finally opened the lid on your own, good, or one of my kids had to make you. Either way, sit down." The music underneath is called Martin's Waltz. I wrote it for our 50th. If I made it, you've heard it by now, and this letter is just me being organized. If I didn't, sweetheart, it goes, "The low part is your side of the bed, and the melody is what living next to you felt like for 49 years, and the little run at the end that doesn't resolve is on purpose, because we don't. Don't you dare leave this lid closed. It's a piano, not a casket. And use the list, you stubborn man. I didn't teach half this town for the free cookies." Anna Reyes sat down at my wife's piano, in my refilled living room, with a dozen grown students crowded in the doorway, and played Martin's Waltz off the handwritten page, first time it ever touched air. And the low part was my side of the bed, and the melody was exactly what she said it was, and the little run at the end didn't resolve. It's not supposed to, friends. We don't. Craig makes his payments. And at Christmas, he came. I'd told him the door worked fine. His key just didn't. He stood on the porch a long time. Anna was playing. The house was loud and full the way Dot ran it, and my son stood outside his childhood window, listening to his mother's waltz, and then he left without knocking. I saw him. I let him. Some men have to wait on the porch steps a while before their lesson. His slot stays open, Tuesdays. It always was. So here's the lesson, and it's Dot's, not mine. Make the list, friends. Whatever your version of the ledger page is, make it while your hands still work. Because love that plans ahead is the only kind that can still show up after. My wife has been gone 2 years, and this spring she sent a locksmith, an attorney, a realtor, a nurse, and a girl from the Blue House to carry me home. The quiet ones don't stop seeing everything just because they've closed their eyes. Your verdict in the comments, and it's a hard one this week. Craig, on the porch at Christmas, not knocking. Pete says I should have opened the door. Anna says he wasn't ready and knew it. Team, open the door, or team, let him wait, and be honest about which porch you're standing on in your own family. I read every single comment, and if you believe the quiet ones see everything, subscribe, because next Sunday a son-in-law blocks a doorway and says, "She's not leaving this house." He didn't know the old man on the phone had already called someone. That story starts at a locked front door and ends, well, you'll see who ends it. Take care of each other and open the lid. It's a piano, not a casket.